Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda. Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nivishesha Sunyavadi Paskachari Satarni. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Oh, phew. I wanted to take a look at a verse from the Upadeshamrita. This is the English translation with commentaries by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Upadeshamrita was written by Rupa Goswami about 500 years ago, around the time of the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada, Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, has translated into English and given word for word of the Sanskrit and also some purports or some discussion on the verse. And naturally, I have the wrong glasses. I need the other glasses. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. It's text 5, and you might get interrupted because some tree people are coming to trim a really large tree that's near the house, so they could come at any time. Hare Krishna. So text 5. Krishneti yasya giritam manasadriyeta dikshasti chet pranatibis chabhajantam misham shushushaya bhajana vignam ananyamanya nindari sunya vidamipshita sangalabhya. Translation. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Purport. In order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, so let's take a look at what the sixfold loving reciprocations, this is how devotees of the Lord reciprocate in loving exchange with each other. Offering gifts in charity, accepting charitable gifts. Revealing one's mind in confidence and inquiring confidentially. Accepting prasad and offering prasad are the 6 symptoms of love shared by the devotee, one devotee and another. So Prabhupada explains the purport to this verse. In order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. Srila Rupa Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnava in an appropriate way, according to their particular status. In this verse he tells how to deal with 3 types of devotees: Kanistha Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Uttama Adhikari. Kanistha Adhikari is a neophyte who has received Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person within his mind as a Kanistha Vaishnava. A Madhyam Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyam Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. The Uttama Adhikari, or the highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. An Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others. His heart is completely clean, and he has attained the realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. According to Srila Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavata, or perfect Vaishnava, are most desirable. One should not remain a Kanistha Adhikari, one who is situated in the lowest platform of devotional service and is interested only in worshipping the deity in the temple. Such a devotee is described in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Acharyam evaharaye pujam ya shradaya hete natad bhakteshu chanyeshu sabhakta prakrita smita. Translation. A person who is very faithfully engaged in the worship of the deity in the temple, but who does not know how to behave toward devotees or people in general, is called a prakrita bhakta, or a kanistha adhikari. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of this kanistha adhikari to the platform of madhyam adhikari. The Madhyamadikari is described in Srimad Bhagavatam in this way. Ishvare tad adanishu balisheshu dvishashtacha prema maitri kripopeksha ya karoti sa madhyama. The Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, making friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. This is very detailed discussion of how to associate in a devotional community. First of all, not to blaspheme or criticize others, that's the highest platform. And then, discussed here on the lowest platform, is that simply engaged in worshiping the deity in the temple, which the deity is Krishna, but not knowing how to act or behave with devotees, other devotees, or even people in general, anyone in general, devotee or not devotee, don't know how to behave. So they're busily engaged in serving the deity in the temple, but they don't know how to engage with others, act with others. That has to come off that level and of just worshiping in the temple and that's all is Krishna, and then they have to get off that level to get to the next level of Madhyamadikari. And Prabhupada says here, he says, one has to therefore raise himself from the position of Kanistha Adhikari to the platform of Madhyamadikari. We have to learn how to associate with each other. And that, in the first paragraph, Prabhupada describes, in order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations amongst devotees, or giving and accepting gifts, sharing one's mind, revealing one's mind in confidence, and hearing another reveal their mind in confidence, confidential, and giving and receiving prasad. So in order to intelligently apply those kinds of exchanges, it's necessary to be able to discriminate what level a devotee is on. Anyone who's chanting Hare Krishna and trying to surrender to Krishna needs to be offered all respects within the mind. But then how you actually engage with them, that requires some discrimination. So that's what's being discussed here. So the second class devotee, the Madhyamadikari, is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love, makes friends with the Lord's devotees, is merciful to the ignorant, and avoids those who are envious by nature. So that's the halfway. The introductory entry level is Krishna's just in the temple and doesn't know how to act with anyone. Then get to the second level. This is the symptoms of someone who is on the second level, midway to perfection. They worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the highest object of love. They don't worship him as like God necessarily, but they worship him as the highest object of love, the personality of Godhead. They make friends with the Lord's devotees. They're merciful to the ignorant and avoid those who are envious by nature. Prabhupada continues, this is the way to cultivate devotional service properly. Therefore, in this verse, Srila Rupa Goswami has advised us how to treat various devotees. We can see from practical experience that there are different types of Vaishnavas. The Prakriti Sahajiya generally chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, yet they're attached to women, money, and intoxication. That's Prakriti Sahajiya. We have a lot of material attachment for different types of sense gratification. Intoxicants, they want a lot of money, and especially sexual activity. They have a lot of material attachments. Although such persons may chant the holy name of the Lord, they are not yet properly purified. Such people should be respected within one's mind, but their association should be avoided. You want to avoid those type of people, that type of association. Because when we associate with someone, we take on their qualities. We become influenced by their association, and our own behavior and thoughts become influenced. It's infectious. Association is infectious. So those kind of people offer them respects within the mind, but they should be avoided. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor if they are eager to receive proper instructions from pure devotees. So someone who's been carried away by bad association, you want to make some effort, extend some effort to befriend them in Krishna consciousness, shown special favor. What does that mean, to show special favor? What does that mean, to show special favor to someone? What does that mean? You show special favor to someone. Let me look it up, see. Show favor. Sometimes I think I know what these things mean, and then when I look it up. What does it mean to show favor? Google knows. To prefer someone in an unfair way. Okay, this is a negative thing. To show that you like or approve of someone more than others, it's a little on the negative side, but to kind of go, let's go a little more neutral here. We have to go down to the third description. To approve of or support something. To regard someone or something as most likely to succeed or to win. Okay, so you give them some support. You encourage them. If they're open, you can encourage them in the direction of the right direction, since they're stuck in the wrong direction, but if they're a little open, see. Those who are innocent but simply carried away by bad association should be shown favor, encouragement, if they are eager to receive proper instruction from pure devotees. You can kind of become their fan club. You can encourage them, fan the little spark there, even if they're kind of still stuck in bad association. If they're open. If they're not open, okay, good luck. Write me a letter when you get there. Send me a postcard. Hare Krishna. But those neophyte devotees who are actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master and are seriously engaged in carrying out the orders of a spiritual master should be offered respectful obeisances. So even within that initial introduction to Krishna consciousness, there's 3 different levels. Some are really gone with the wind. They're just, yeah, Krishna, we love Krishna, but we also love sex and drugs and money and all kinds of stuff. So there's that level. And then there's those that are innocent, but they're kind of carried away by bad association. And if they're open, they should be shown special favor to kind of move them along a little bit, the right direction, getting free from that stuff. And then there are those that have actually given up everything. They're chanting 16 rounds, they're following 4 regulative principles, and they're being engaged in devotional service, so they should be offered respectful obeisances. But it's all still all introductory level. Krishna. In this Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada continues, a chance is given to everyone without discrimination of caste, creed, or color, or background, or history, or heredity, or anything really. Everyone, it's a come as you are party, is invited to join this movement. Sit with us, take prasad, and hear about Krishna. No matter what condition you're in. Krishna. When we see that someone is actually interested in Krishna consciousness and wants to be initiated, we accept him as a disciple for the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. When a neophyte devotee is actually initiated and engaged in devotional service by the orders of the spiritual master, he should be accepted immediately as a bona fide Vaishnava, and obeisances should be offered unto him. Out of many such Vaishnavas, one may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord and strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as an Uttama Adhikari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. So this, how to find a bona fide spiritual master and be situated as Prabhupada is describing. That takes sincerity, and then Krishna makes the arrangements. How one finds the actual spiritual master. Krishna makes the arrangements. But we see the actual qualities. He says, someone who has a bona fide spiritual master and is following the process, they can become this Uttama Adhikari, pure devotee. And such a person may be found to be very seriously engaged in the service of the Lord, strictly following all the regulative principles, chanting the prescribed number of rounds on japa beads, and always thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. Such a Vaishnava should be accepted as Uttamakari, a highly advanced devotee, and his association should always be sought. We always look for those types of associations where someone is really fixed nicely. They're actually following 4 regulative principles. Hare Krishna. They're chanting prescribed number of rounds on beads. Hare Krishna. And they're thinking of how to expand the Krishna consciousness movement. We like association like that. Find that very wonderful association. We're always hankering for that kind of association. Prabhupada says, out of many Vaishnavas, one may be found like that. So they're all Vaishnavas, chanting Hare Krishna. They're different levels, but out of many, one may be found like that. And that we want to take that association. The process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita Antya Lila. Diksha Kale Bhakta Kare Uttama Samarpana Se Kale Krishna Tari Kari Atma Sama. Translation: at the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. The process by which a devotee becomes attached to Krishna, Diksha Kale Bhakta Kari Atma Samarpana Se Kale Krishna Tari Kari Atma Sama. At the time of initiation, when a devotee fully surrenders to the service of the Lord, Krishna accepts him to be as good as he himself. So Prabhupada's going to try and help us here understand about this initiation process. Diksha, or spiritual initiation, is explained in Bhakti Sandarbha by Jiva Goswami. Divyam jnanam ito datyat kuryat prapasya samshayam tasmat diksheti sa prokta deshikais tatvako vidai. Translation: by Diksha, one gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. By Diksha, one gradually becomes disinterested in material enjoyment and gradually becomes interested in spiritual life. Prabhupada's going to say a little something about the movement here. We have seen many practical examples of this, especially in Europe and America. Many students who come to us from rich and respectable families quickly lose all interest in material enjoyment, become very eager to enter into spiritual life. Although they come from very wealthy families, many of them accept living conditions that are not very comfortable. Indeed, for Krishna's sake, they are prepared to accept any living condition as long as they can live in the temple and associate with the Vaishnavas. When one becomes so disinterested in material enjoyment, he becomes fit for initiation by the spiritual master. So that was what was going on at the time Prabhupada was physically on the planet traveling and preaching. The temples were like magnets for people who wanted to become free from having anything to do with material life or goals. They made their only goal to hear and chant about Krishna, serve in the temple, serve the deity. 24 hours a day this was going on. They were very, very powerful, potent environment in that way. It's kind of tapered off a bit after Prabhupada's disappearance, and devotees are worshipping in their homes and making their homes temples and serving their families, as well as supporting the preaching with festivals and street kirtan. But this mood that Prabhupada is describing here, it's kind of not going on all that much, where people are just flocking to the temples and giving up. I'm talking about young people, late teens, early 20s, and early 30s even, just giving up everything and getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning, taking cold showers, running down to the temple room to chant 16 rounds for 2.5 hours, and then attend the class, and then, so that mood and tempo was what Prabhupada, when he was here, he was seeing that. It's morphed a bit since then. The devotees have become mature. They're not just in the student life now. They have families, they have jobs, they own businesses, they have children, and they're making their homes in temples. Temple is a home. So that's where that kind of, in the beginning, is what Prabhupada is describing. But he's using it as proof of this process works. Many students came to us from rich and respectable families, lost all interest in material enjoyment, became eager to live in the temple and study with the Vaishnavas. Indeed, for Krishna's sake, they're prepared to accept any living condition as long as they can live in the temple and associate with the Vaishnavas. When one becomes so disinterested in material enjoyment, he becomes fit for initiation of the spiritual master. So the point Prabhupada's making is that when one becomes that disinterested that they're willing to live in any material condition and give up all material enjoyment. No desire for any material enjoyment. Then he's fit for initiation by the spiritual master. So the point is becoming disinterested in material enjoyment. That's the point. Whether you live in a temple or not in a temple, if your home is a temple, the point that's being made is to become so disinterested in material sense gratification and material goals. And the crowning glory of material sense gratification is Hiranyakashipu is the king of that. A soft bed and money. Sex and money. Sense gratification. And all the trimmings that go along with that. So one has no more taste for that. That's not, they just want spiritual life. So that person becomes fit for initiation by a spiritual master. For the advancement of spiritual life, Srimad Bhagavatam prescribes in the 6th canto, Tapasa brahmacharyena samena cha dhamena cha. When a person is serious about accepting diksha, he must be prepared to practice austerity, celibacy, control of the body and mind. If one is so prepared and is desirous of receiving spiritual enlightenment, divya jnanam, he is fit for being initiated. Austerity, celibacy, and control of the mind and body. That doesn't leave householders out. Devotee householders, if they're actually following the path, they're not indulging in all kinds of sense gratification. They're living together as husband and wife, and they're raising beautiful Krishna-conscious children. And they're also considered a kind of celibacy in that they don't indulge in sex life except to have children. So that's kind of like, wow, in this day and age? But, are you serious? Yeah, that's what it is. It's Krishna conscious household life. No, yes. So they're also considered celibate. If you look at our line of acharyas, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he had 2 wives and 13 children. Okay? And he's a pure devotee of Krishna. He's the Acharya in our line. So it's not just an external show of renunciation. Doing that, many times you find someone who's very proud of being so celibate and powerful like that. But their hearts are hard as rocks. And they're stiff and they have so much pride in them. So that's no good either. It's going the other way. You know, we tend to oversteer, you know. My father was teaching me how to drive a car. I was going 2 to the left, and then to help, he says, no, don't go far to the left. Now you go too far to the right. No, you go too far to the right, then too far to the left. He says, just stay in the middle of the road. Hare Krishna. If one is so prepared, in other words, they practice austerity, celibacy, controlling the mind and the body, in whatever ashram they're in, if one is so prepared and desirous of receiving spiritual enlightenment, divya jnanam, he is fit for being initiated. Divya jnanam is technically called tad vijnana, or knowledge about the Supreme. So, initiation by the spiritual master allows the transmission of spiritual knowledge to take place, which is actually a very mystical activity. It's not just mental, like a how-to book, it's not so much like, there's a how-to part to it too, but the actual message is very mystical, and it takes place just like it did between Lord Brahma and Krishna himself. It was a transmission in the heart. It's a heart-to-heart transmission. So this initiation and surrender to the spiritual master allows this transmission to take place, just like it did between Lord Krishna and Lord Brahma. It allows that. And the disciple remains faithful to that spiritual master, their initiating spiritual master, who connects them with this parampara, and remain faithful to them. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. It's almost like getting married. You take your vows. So Divya Jnanam is technically called Tad Vijnana, or knowledge about the Supreme. Tad Vijnanatam Sagurum Eva Vigachat, which okay. Tad Vijnanatam Sagurum Eva Vigachat. When one is interested in transcendental subject matter of the Absolute, he should be initiated. He should find that connection, that heartfelt connection, with a spiritual master. So Prabhupada is saying, such a person should approach a spiritual master in order to take Diksha. Srimad Bhagavatam also prescribes Tasmat Gurum Prapadyeta Jigyasu Shreya Uttama. So, how to find the spiritual master? Krishna makes the arrangements, and I'm seeing all kinds of unusual arrangements where people are, in order to get this connection that will allow them this heartfelt transmission, this heartfelt communication, and it's a matter of questions and answers. It's not just like an encyclopedia blurping out. It's questions and answers. Spiritual master is enlivened by the questions of this, just like Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Sukadeva was enlivened by Parikshit's questions. So to get that relationship where this kind of communication should go on, Krishna's making all kinds of unusual arrangements. And I'm remembering the importance of one who is advanced in undeviated devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. So what works for one may not work for the other. In other words, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Krishna's making the arrangements so that this transmission can take place. And it's pretty far out. It's hard to put Krishna in a box, you know. I mean, Hare Krishna. One should not accept a spiritual master without following his instructions. Nor should one accept a spiritual master just to make a fashionable show of spiritual life. One must be jigyasu, very much inquisitive to learn from a bona fide spiritual master. The inquiries one makes should strictly pertain to devotional science. Jigyasu Shreya Uttamam. The word Uttamam refers to that which is above material knowledge. Tama means darkness of this material world, and Ut means transcendental. Generally, people are very interested in inquiring about mundane subject matters, but when one has lost such interest and is simply interested in transcendental subject matters, he's quite fit for being initiated. So So that's what initiation means. It doesn't necessarily mean just the formalities of a banana in a fire. It's approaching a spiritual master, inquiring submissively and hearing from him, and following the instructions. So then that is actually taking shelter of the spiritual master. When one is actually initiated by the bona fide spiritual master, when he is seriously engages in the service of the Lord, he should be accepted as a Madhyamadikari. So how does Prabhupada fit into all of this? It was very clear when Prabhupada was physically present on the planet that he was the bona fide spiritual master. Nobody else was taking disciples. Well, his godbrothers were, but that was a whole other preaching branch, a whole other preaching arm, all stemming from the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, but this was a very powerful string, very powerful branch, with a lot of fruit on the tree. And it was very clear that Prabhupada was the spiritual master, that's it. But after he left, then, well, what do we do now, you know? And it's been like that, hanging in the atmosphere for quite some time. And somehow the movement is spreading, and people are finding those connections that they need to make, so that they can link up with the Parampara. They can link up with Lord Brahma, Lord Chaitanya. They're finding those connections that are helping them to get the heartfelt transmissions. And that requires sincerity on the part of the person wanting to make the connection, and on Krishna's arrangements for them. Krishna makes the arrangements. It's all very mystical and very wonderful. And it's really important to remember the end of that verse. Whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. Hare Krishna. You know, Prabhupada did a lot of things that traditionally had never been done before. And he received quite a bit of criticism for it. We were protected from hearing that criticism, but he did a lot of things that, according to time, place, and circumstance. In other words, whatever works. And toward the end, when he was leaving, he apologized, especially to his godbrothers. He apologized. And he said, you know, if I've done anything wrong, if I've made any offenses, or I've made any mistakes, he said, I've accepted too many unqualified disciples. I accepted they weren't qualified, but I accepted them anyway. And then he said, well, what could I do? It was an emergency. So it's still an emergency. And Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare. Whatever helps us, whatever works. Accept everything favorable. Always remember Krishna. If it works, take it. The only qualification Prabhupada actually said was sincerity. It's the only qualification. So a disciple asked, well, what if I don't have sincerity, Prabhupada? I forget his answer. I think it was something like, then pray to be sincere, or something like that. Hare Krishna. The whole process is very mystical. But after all, Krishna is the supreme mystic, isn't he? Hare Krishna. Yeah, there's a manual. We have the manuals, the how-tos, but the actual process is very mystical. Beyond simply intellectually. I'm gonna figure it out, how it works, I'm gonna do it. Or, if I put a quarter in the machine, I'm sure to get a gumball out. It's not like that. This Krishna says, if you offer me with love and devotion, I'll accept. It's not that you just offer something and Krishna has to accept, put a quarter in the gumball machine, you're going to get a gumball. Hey, where's the love, Where's the love and devotion? Come on, that's what I'm looking for. I don't need your quarter. Hare Krishna. Krishna. Yeah, this is a great verse. It's really long. And I don't know where the tree people are. Krishna Chaitanya. I guess they're on their way. Hare Krishna. Okay. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare. So one should not accept a spiritual master without following his instructions. Bhagavad Gita, just try to approach a bona fide spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, and render service. He can impart knowledge to you because he's seen the truth. Nor should one accept a spiritual master just to make a fashionable show of spiritual life. Kind of like having a poodle, I have a spiritual master, or, I've got a poodle. One must be jignasu, very much inquisitive, to learn from the bona fide spiritual master. That's why Gaurkishore Babaji didn't accept any disciples. And he dressed and acted and appeared in a way that would discourage people who had material desires from approaching him. He stayed out in the fields where people passed stool. In India, areas where people would go out to the field. He would stay there. He dressed, actually, in very, very opulent silks sometimes, just so people think that he was crazy because he's living out in the field dressed in opulent silks, and that he's just crazy. He did a lot of things to discourage them from coming. There's one story about one man who tried to approach Gaurkishore. He was just absorbed in chanting Hare Krishna. That's all he wanted. Nadanam, Najanam, Nasandarim. I don't want followers. I don't want money. I don't want women. Just to let me engage in your devotional service life after life. So he was like that. He was Bhajananandi. He wasn't interested in anything but just absorbing himself. And he's in our line also. And he was the spiritual master of Bhaktisiddhanta. Gaurkishore couldn't read or write. He was totally absorbed in Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Totally absorbed. So one man approached him. Oh yes, Swamiji, you're my guru, Swamiji. Yes, I want to learn from you about Krishna. I want to be your disciple. I want to be a devotee of Krishna. Please, you help me. So Gaurkishore said, all right, I will accept you. Now you just stay here with me. And the man was, oh, but Swamiji, I can't. I have my family, I have my house, my children, my business, I can't. And Gaurkishore, no, you come here and stay with him. The man ran away. He ran away. But not Bhaktisiddhanta. His father told him, you need to take initiation from Gaurkishore. Gaurkishore and Bhakti Vinod Thakur they were close. Gaurkishore would come and listen to Bhakti Vinod Thakur's presentations when he would hold classes and discussions. Gaurkishore would come and listen. And Bhaktivinoda recognized him as a pure devotee of Krishna. And he told his son, who was a great scholar, very intellectual, very cultured and refined, that he needed to take initiation from a spiritual master, and that Gaurkishore, he needed to take initiation from Gaurkishore, which was incredible because Gaurkishore couldn't read or write, and Bhaktisiddhanta was like using these huge English words. I mean, I have to get the dictionary when I read his English writings. So he took his father's instructions seriously. He approached Gaurkishore. Gaurkishore told him, no, I can't accept you. You're too intelligent, you're too educated. How can I accept you? You know, you're way more intelligent, educated than I am. You know the scriptures. What can I possibly teach you? No. Bhaktisiddhanta became determined. And I believe the way it goes is Gaurkishore had a little walk he would take fairly regularly, and it was over a bridge, over one of the rivers, a big river. Maybe it was the Ganges. I don't know. They're in Bengal. It's probably the Ganges. Anyway, there was a bridge over part of a river or something. I don't know, whatever, a rivulet, something. And Bhaktisiddhanta climbed up on the edge of the bridge, and when Gaurkishore walked by, he said, you must accept me. You must accept me as your disciple. You have to. You must. If you don't, I'm going to jump. Because there's no hope for me in life if you don't accept me. He was prepared to jump. He would have jumped to his death. And Gaurkishore, all right, come on. Okay, come on. So what took place between them, I don't see much written record of discussions or classes, or I don't see very much discussion of what took place between them in terms of how they were communicating, how Gaurkishore was communicating. But we know he was absorbed in chanting the holy name. So he had that pure vibration of Krishna consciousness. And he was a spiritual master for Bhaktisiddhanta. Hare Krishna. I'd like to know a little bit more about some of their pastimes together. There's another question. The more I do this, I get more questions than answers. Krishna, what was their relationship like? Nosy. I want to know. What took place between them? How did Gaurkishore act as the spiritual master for? Anyway. Krishna. So Prabhupada's helping us here with these discussions about spiritual master and disciple. And one must be jignasu, very much inquisitive, to learn from the bona fide spiritual master. Learn what? How to surrender to Krishna. How to revive the original loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The inquiries one makes should strictly pertain to transcendental science. Okay. Tama means the darkness of this material world. Alright. When one has lost such interest and is simply interested in transcendental subject matters, he's quite fit for being initiated. The chanting of the holy names of Krishna is so sublime that if one chants the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra offenselessly, carefully avoiding the 10 offenses, he can certainly be gradually elevated to the point of understanding that there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself. So there are offenses to the chanting of the holy name. And the first offense, I can't recall all 10 of them offhand, but the first offense is to blaspheme devotees who've dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. It doesn't say that they're necessarily pure devotees. They may be being engaged by a pure devotee and dedicating their lives in that way, a little bit kind of like dasa dasa anudas, but they're dedicating their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. So that's the first offense to chanting. Someone who wants to chant Hare Krishna and get the full mercy of the Lord, if they're committing that offense, they're blocked right there. They're blocked. First offense is to blaspheme devotees who have dedicated their lives to propagating the holy name of the Lord. Now in Nectar of Devotion, that is the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, translation of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, kind of like a summary study, a big purport, Prabhupada, a big purport on Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's described that devotees can develop things like shadow attachments to the holy name, and they can be chanting a reflection of the holy name, but they may not actually be getting the full mercy of the actual holy name. So, committing offenses like this, they may be stuck in chanting a shadow reflection, a shadow of the holy name, or a reflection of the holy name, not actually entering into the actual holy name. Hare Krishna. One who has reached such an understanding okay, let's go back here. Chanting of the holy names of Krishna is so sublime if one chants Hare Krishna mantra offenselessly, carefully avoiding the 10 offenses. He can certainly be gradually elevated to the point of understanding that there is no difference between the holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. One who has reached such an understanding should be very much respected by neophyte devotees. One should know for certain that without chanting the holy name of the Lord offenselessly, one cannot be a proper candidate for advancement in Krishna consciousness. So, that's a lot to take in. I'm going to kind of take a break there. And I'll be thinking about this like all day, or more than just a day, obviously. Krishna. Krishna Chaitanya. Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Any thoughts on this? Any thoughts? Ring any bells? Corrections? Embellishments? Hare Krishna. Expansions? Hare Krishna. Oh, Krishna. Oh, disappointing. Hare Krishna. Chaitanya.